People tend to give advice because it feels good to give advice. Yeah, if you sign into Claude or Cursor or ChatGPT or like Perplexity Enterprise, those are all services going through our infrastructure. If everybody said it was a good idea, it certainly would fail as a business. One of my friends calls it, it's like the extreme sports version of business. Sure, I'll tell you all the whole story, and I'll give you kind of the history, but I'm very curious to hear about you guys and answer questions or have this be more interactive versus just me monologuing my life story. Working on different startups, I started a club when I was in college, kind of about entrepreneurship, and through that, I ended up meeting Drew Houston, who's the guy who started Dropbox. And so I left school for about 6 months and worked at Dropbox when it was small. It was like 30, 40 people, 50 people, and pretty much convinced me that I wanted to get into technology and startups. So I ended up going back to school and I finished with a computer science degree. And I started a company pretty much right after graduating. I didn't know at all what I was doing. I had met a few people that were founders and investors, so I was able to raise a little bit of money for it. But the product that we started the company to build was an email app. So this is before Slack. So if you think about email being the primary tool people used at work to communicate, we decided to build this product that would ideally change productivity and how people connected in the workplace. Through that experience, we built this amazing thing, but people couldn't actually buy it. And what I mean by that is they could download it, they could use it, but companies, when bigger organizations wanted to actually purchase it and use it at scale, it was missing all of the security stuff in it. And I had never done any sort of like enterprise security or enterprise IT work. And so that learning from that experience turned into WorkOS, which is the company I've been building for the last 7 years. And what WorkOS does is it helps software companies with enterprise features in their app. So if you build the next great platform or the next great service, and you want to go sell it to bigger and bigger organizations, you'll need to add these security features to it, things around authentication, permissions, logging, encryption. We do all of that as an API. So it's kind of like what Stripe has done for payments, but for enterprise security instead.
Yeah, and today it's used by, I don't know, OpenAI, ChatGPT, like super huge companies. So if you go down, then I guess a lot of people are not able to use those services.
Yeah, if you sign into Claude or Cursor or ChatGPT or like Perplexity Enterprise, those are all services going through our infrastructure. And so I always ask myself when I'm like meeting new entrepreneurs or friends are working on things, what if it does work? How big could this be? And things surprise you. No company is smooth sailing successful all the way through. Companies are either hard because they're struggling and failing or hard because they're succeeding, but they're hard either way. Ideally, you're in the succeeding camp, and it's hard because of that. When you're, and I would say also like every successful business sort of has to look like a bad idea initially so that it doesn't attract a lot of people working on it. If something's like such an obviously good idea to do, everybody will do it, and then there actually will be too much competition for a single player to emerge, which is what you need to like win a whole category. So just kind of by definition, you need to be a bit of a contrarian or like have a take on the market that other people don't have. And that usually results in there being some type of struggle to get funding, struggle to hire people, struggle to get customers. And so there's no shortage of reasons that you could stop working. And compared to people that work at companies that are in like a steady state where they already have customers and they're just churning along, if you compare that to the world of a startup, the startup looks like it's in crisis constantly, which it kind of is. It's a crisis of existence. And it's just over a long period of time that those things dissolve and then it ends up stabilizing. So I'd say like early on, it's probably the hardest to continue to keep working because all the signals you're getting back from the market or from the world are negative. and so I certainly had that, with this business or with others where people didn't believe in it or didn't want to invest or thought it wouldn't work. And to some degree, you have to just like accept that's going to happen. It's just their opinion, and have a little bit of solace that if everybody said it was a good idea, it certainly would fail as a business. So you need to have that balance. And then I think the counterpoint is as well, like when things start working and really growing, it also is really hard. A lot of people sell businesses, they sell their company, actually after it's broken out and it's successful because it becomes too overwhelming to try to run it. Too much stress, too many competitors start emerging that want to, pull market away from you. The challenges around like hiring a leadership or executive team is really hard. The numbers get a lot bigger, so it's like sort of higher risk, higher reward. You want to hit like higher growth targets since you have to spend more money and raise more money, and it just gets harder and harder. And so the life of building a startup, building a company, really, nothing about it, I think, is really easy. One of my friends calls it, it's like the extreme sports version of business. It's just like everything about it is like intense. So some people, I think that's a really good fit maybe for what they're looking for in their life, but it's certainly not for everyone, just in terms of like your lifestyle and relationship to work. So even though I'd say startups are like sort of glorified like a bit in the Silicon Valley, San Francisco tech scene, there's certainly a lot of trade-offs and a lot of things you compromise on to build them.
Yeah. What's your take about AI bubble that some people say that there is now, some other people say no? I mean, on the long term, of course, there's going to be a lot of value created.
I think both things are true. So it's absolutely true that this AI technology is like enormously disruptive to pretty much everything. I mean, that sounds extreme, but it's like a new modality of interacting with computers. It changes the way we write software. It allows software and technology to do things that previously were like unthinkable. Like not even they were impossible. We just didn't think that machines could do these things. And so it is truly like enormously disruptive, I think, in ways that we're like not quite understanding yet, even like we're still kind of figuring it out. And so yeah, I think it's in some ways, I think people underappreciate how much can change in the world. And the example I try to give is like, I think that type of a change, if you can think about how extreme it is, that's probably smaller than what we're going to have with the AI stuff, because the AI is like more. So on the one hand, I think it's actually still in some ways under-discussed how much of a change it'll bring. On the other side, any sort of disruptive technology wave ends up becoming a bubble because there's overinvestment in it. Yeah. Because the outcome is so extreme, the potential for change is so enormous that there's almost like no way that you can justify investing less in it. If you have X number of dollars to invest and the potential for that outcome completely changes the world in a way that you might be irrelevant, how much would you be willing to invest? Well, like all of it, you go all in. And so that ends up resulting in this type of like a bubble effect where some of those investments won't be, come to fruition. They won't be fruitful. But it's because there's just sort of almost a existential crisis around like finding this new world. And that drives investment in areas that might be more out of just desperation for that. But I don't think that means necessarily that I like trying to have a mindset of curiosity around it and like, what if this does work? It's pretty easy to be dismissive and negative and even like win internet points by being negative, People are often celebrated when they like punch down an idea, like this will never work, or this is a bad idea, or this, look how dumb this is. Those people are rarely right on a longer term horizon. Being a pessimist doesn't serve you. And so I think trying to be curious and have like optimism is like the right mental state. Even if you're wrong sometimes, like even if you're wrong like 9 out of 10 times, it'll put you in the position to be able to capitalize on being right once. Whereas the pessimist will be, they'll be right 9 times out of 10, but they'll be wrong on the one time that matters. So I think that's, and then the other thing, like how we operate our business and company today is on a very short planning cycle. So we essentially like effectively reevaluate the entire company every week. It's like a heartbeat. And we're willing to like change company direction or change products or change strategy very quickly. And it means we're making a lot of like very small corrections very quickly versus like big corrections on a longer time horizon. And I think big corrections are more painful for companies to actually like affect. They have a bigger cultural impact, and you have to like hire and fire people, it's like very disruptive to your organization. So if you can make a lot of small short-term corrections, people call them like pivots sometimes, but I think it's not a full pivot. It's just like a very small course correction. Yeah, I look for people who are pretty like humble, in the sense that, you know, they might have, and certainly have like an opinion about something or what they're trying to achieve. They might have like a goal, but they're very flexible in how they achieve that. And they sort of like seek truth over being correct. And what I also look for this when I interview people too, but one of the things I think you can try to find, and I would suggest also this is if you're like, you know, believing you need to be the next Steve Jobs or something, that's kind of the different mentality. It's the reason really, like, are you obsessed with the problem space, or are you obsessed with your solution and being right? And they result in two different types of outcomes. Unfortunately, I think on Twitter and other places, it sort of celebrates people that are like steadfast, committed to like a big narrative or vision, regardless of whether it's, you know, successful or not, or selling products. And I think people watch those founders as well. They get a lot of followers because people want to see it explode and go up in flames, and it's easier to criticize. So if you're willing to be wrong and change your perspective or attitude or incorporate information into it, it's very hard to criticize people like that, you know, because they don't get defensive and create this like conflict, public conflict. They invite in criticism. It ends up becoming more of like a sponge that soaks stuff up. You can't really fight a sponge, you know. Yeah, interesting question. Builders or founders to ask like about situations they've been in, what they've seen work and what not work. And try not to, if you ask somebody for advice, they will give you advice. And so I just try not to ask for it, I guess. It's maybe a better way to say it, because the signal that I get from that, the person is well-meaning, they're trying to be helpful. If they're a friend, they'll really try to understand the thing and be really smart about it, and they'll think about it for a long time. But ultimately, every situation is different. The world is different every day. You're a different person than they are. You know, your markets are different. There's no way that they can tell you exactly what to do in that situation. I try not to give advice. I don't think I really know anything about Web3 or event platforms. The thing I always go back to when trying to think about like new company ideas is what is the problem you're solving? Not even solving yet, just what's the problem that exists in the world? Like, what is the pain? And trying to articulate that as deeply and as like sharply as you can, and then draw out from it what you're going to build and how you're going to solve it, lets you continue to go back to the problem when your solution doesn't work. Because any solution you come up with, like upon first contact with the market, is going to be wrong in some way. So if you're sort of in love with your idea or your product, your solution, you won't be listening to the market to change it. You'll be like, oh, but I built this like beautiful, precious, amazing thing. People don't understand it. They don't get my brilliance. You know, it's kind of this deep thing in people's brains, and you make something like, I'm misunderstood. But the reality is, like, even if you built something beautiful and the market doesn't value it, it's not going to work. So being able to draw back to the problem, like, what are people trying to do in their lives that they can't do today? What are alternatives that exist that are not great? What do people resort to? Funny enough, I think actually Y Combinator does an exceptional job at describing these things. Like, I always encourage people to go look at the YC application and just answer the questions for yourself. I do it for new products that we build, just myself. I just go read through it. It's just a very good set of checks to question yourself. And so that would be, if any advice, is just that generic getting started, is like focus as much as you can on the problem and really make sure it's a true problem for the world, you know, versus like an imagined problem. And then just ruthlessly focus on that and being flexible in your tactics and in terms of how you solve it. And it might be Web3, it might not. That's a road to get there. The question was generally like, is there still stuff to be built sort of without AI, or like building a company that's not focused on it? Probably. I think it's like such a disruptive force, and for two reasons. Like, one reason is kind of similar. Like, one reason is AI lets you create things that you previously couldn't create, and it also sort of, because of that, like jeopardizes existing business categories. So anytime you're building a new thing, a new product, a new company, a new thing in the world, you can't really compete with existing companies for a startup. You can't really compete with existing companies just doing what they previously have done, because they're already established and growing. And if you're just trying to do the same thing, there just will be no way to get enough momentum to rise to their scale. You always have to do something different, slightly different. And the key is the thing that's different needs to be powerful enough that it can cause you to grow. You know, and if the goal here is to grow, right? If there's like, I got kind of a metaphor for this, but like AI is that disruptive force. Is what I'm kind of trying to say here. Like, and the reason why there's so much excitement around it is because there's these entire categories of products that are in the market that previously have been hard to disrupt. Software for lawyers has been really hard to like make a new company to do that, because the old guys had all the case files, they have all the customers, they're hard to sell to lawyers. Lawyers don't want to change software that often. It's like this kind of, bit of a stodgy industry. But suddenly with this AI thing, now you can build a product that if you show it to a lawyer, they're like, holy smokes, I have to have this. It's disruptive, right? And that lets you grow in a way. And so I think by choosing not to use that, you are constraining yourself away from potentially your biggest opportunity to have a disruptive technology. And so I think it would be very unwise to do it in that way, because you would just instead be competing with entrenched legacy products. And the search for how AI can be disruptive is what a lot of these companies are looking for. Like if you and you see like ideas that kind of seem stupid sometimes around this. You're like, oh, this company is building like an AI-enabled dog collar or something. You're like, oh, do we need AI for that? Like, it just helps me find my dog. But that is the potential like disruptive vector for that category. There's no other way to disrupt the existing dog collar folks except for this new thing. It's like a new color that's been invented. And you can say now we have the blue-purple thing that no one else has, and they haven't been able to sell, and it gives you a thing to talk about in the market. And that might not be the exact right feature for that thing, but it's worth trying. It's worth experimenting. And in certain product categories, like the AI is the disruptive thing that completely flips the thing upside down. Completely changes it overnight. The greatest example of that right now is search. Like if you look at what's happening with ChatGPT and Perplexity, the amount of search traffic they're pulling away from Google is enormous. There's a ton of stuff I just use ChatGPT for instead of going to Google. But, that's disruptive to this like business worth hundreds of billions of dollars a year in revenue. So there might be areas that are the case there, but I think you have to be like very specific about why you wouldn't incorporate it into your product and use it as an advantage. Yeah, and there might be a good reason why, but I think in general, I'd say it's probably better to try to like find ways to apply AI to existing businesses rather than try to avoid it if you're starting a new business. Nothing is safe.